And we're live.
All right. Hello, Mesa Public Schools community. I am so happy to be able to share some time with you this afternoon. My name is Andy Forlis, and I am the very proud superintendent of this amazing school district. And as you know, today is our second day of remote learning. And while this is an unusual school year, it is, certainly has some familiarity to it. I'm excited to know that your children have been able to meet their teachers, that they have gotten some structure and into their days, thinking about what learning looks like and sounds like in a remote environment, and that if you've had any questions, that you are here with us. So the topic of today's Facebook Live session is just general questions that you have related to Mesa Public Schools. And I'm thinking many of those questions are going to be about remote learning. And so we are very ready to tackle those questions. Certainly, I could never do this by myself. So I have our esteemed guest, Holly Williams, who is our associate superintendent. I want to tell you a little bit about Holly. Holly has been a proud member of Mesa Public Schools since 1999. She's also a proud parent of two graduates from Mesa Public Schools, and both of those graduates are working in our schools today. So she has a very unique perspective. One of her daughters is working in our after school programs, and another is going to be a brand new preschool teacher. So Mrs. Williams has the perspective of what does it look like to get ready for remote learning from a teacher perspective, and also one of our executive team members as our associate superintendent. So as you know, remote learning started yesterday. I'll give you a little bit of information. We know that this has put a tremendous amount of responsibilities on our families. And so we have very intentionally built family support networks at every one of our schools. So if you have questions and you just feel that you're wit's end and don't know what to do next, on every one of our school websites, there is a big red button that says help. It's very simple, help. Click that button, respond, please let us know what you need help with, and we are going to do the very best job that we can getting information to you from those that are the best trained to get to a solution for you. I also want to let you know that we know that our phone lines for tech help have been very, very, very popular. And some people have been waiting as long as an hour today. And we are working on a solution to that. We have learned that we need to increase the number of our phone lines. So our technology department has a request in, and that will be done as quickly as possible. So we are paying very close attention to that. We know that many of you, if your children needed a device, you were able to pick those up at your school site. For some reason, you missed that pickup date, please reach out to your school and they will make sure that they get a device to you. So we're going to open up with questions. We're going to start off with a first question that we have, which is, can you tell us a little bit about meal distribution? I understand that parents can pick up meals at their school. So Mrs. Williams, will you tell us about that?
Yes, we have such a fantastic dedicated food and nutrition department that have been working all summer in preparation for meal distribution. So we're excited to say that at each of our school sites daily, they serve lunch from 11 to 12:30, and each school site has an availability for parents to stop by and pick up lunch. For all the children in their family, you just need to know their ID numbers if possible. And if you're on the free and reduced lunch program, it will be documented that way. And if you'd like to purchase a lunch for yourself or for someone else, there's a nominal charge for those school lunches. So we're excited that our school lunch program is continuing, and the work of our food nutrition department staff members make that possible. And we're so happy that they are on our team and willing to meet the needs of our community in that way. So I encourage you, everyone, to stop by to get that food. It's there ready and waiting for you. So please come by daily.
Thank you so much. We have some questions that have come in around how, now that we're in our second day of remote learning, what can we expect? Well, the one thing that I want to say is that when we closed school in March of last spring, we really scrambled and we did the very best job that we could to provide some learning experiences for students. So that the learning of the spring is not the same thing that you will experience this fall. One of the biggest changes is attendance. In the spring, we were not taking daily attendance, but now that kids are back into school, this is the 2021 beginning of the school year. And so we are taking attendance. So Mrs. Williams, can you talk through a little bit about attendance taking?
Yes, thank you. So attendance is taken via Canvas daily. So your student logs into Canvas and completes assignments and works on the assignments and activities that the teachers have assigned via our online learning management system, which is Canvas. They will be marked present for the day. So, for example, if a teacher holds a WebEx meeting with their class and the link comes through Canvas, attendance is done. There's no work for the teacher to do. You're marked present because your student was there. If your student logs in and does some Florida virtual activities in their third grade math area, they are marked present because they have come in and they have participated and done some learning and work towards that each day. Now, if you are struggling in the remote environment and you are one of the people who are waiting for tech help, but your student emailed with the teacher and knows what is needed, and they couldn't get into Canvas today or yesterday, they're still marked present because they had contact with their teacher. So we are giving teachers opportunities to mark the students present for the contact they've had and the progress that students are making. So so don't let technology be the barrier to attendance, but know that it's a very simple way that attendance is being taken to alleviate the worry of our teachers having to look on the screen to see every face, to make sure everybody's present. The system automatically does that for them based on their logons.
That's great information to have. And that makes me think about this question around how does remote learning feel? So I think one thing that is important to share is that when teachers and students are working together in an in-person environment, if a student has a question or they're having difficulty with something or an unusual situation, they reach out and have a conversation with their teacher. That same thing happens in a remote environment. So we encourage our students to reach out to their teachers when they are having any kind of difficulty. And our teachers are going to respond the way that they would in an in-person environment. So while this feels kind of funny in this technological age, please know that our teachers are very available and very willing to be able to support and help in any way possible. So let's talk a little bit about this unusual. Let's go back to lunches for a minute. We have a question that just came in, Mrs. Williams, and it is, can I get all my children's lunches at one school?
Oh, that's a toughie. I think the answer is yes. You just have to
Okay.
have your student's ID number so that we can track it back to their home school. So we don't expect you to, if you have children at, let's say, Emerson, Carson, and Westwood, you don't need to stop your car 3 times. Stop and pick up the lunches, and we'll take care of the back end paperwork for you. So just make sure you have the student ID numbers for each of the students that you're picking up lunch for.
Excellent. Yes, I didn't mean to stump the guest here today, but
It
that
just
was
took a
one of
second
those.
for it to kick in.
So yes, let's find that logical answer. So we're making up. I mean, we are thinking about these things all the time. So I'm so happy that you're with us and asking these good questions. You keep us on our toes. So let's talk about Wednesdays at the secondary. We do have a schedule. So another thing that is different this for fall remote learning is that students have a schedule to follow. In the spring, they didn't have a schedule. They do now. And we know that Wednesdays are going to continue to be early release Wednesdays, 2-hour early release throughout this semester. And let me talk a little bit about the reason for the early release Wednesday, and then Mrs. Williams can talk about what to expect in a secondary environment on a Wednesday for students. So that early release period, that is for teachers to get together, to collaborate with their teams, and to talk about what is it that we're needing in this remote learning. This is new for us. And so this gives them time for additional training, for some planning, for some conversations that they need to make, reaching out to families during that time. So that's the reason behind that early release. And that is probably some of the most valuable time that a teacher has all week. So now let's think about students. So they've got an early release on Wednesday. Let's talk about what we could expect during Wednesday time.
So Wednesdays, the teachers are building that into their schedule, and they know that it's an early release. So they're balancing their synchronous teaching, their in-person teaching, with their online teaching or their remote learning. So you should see perhaps shortened meeting times on a Wednesday. So if they typically on a Monday through Friday tell you that their section is going to last 40 minutes, perhaps on a Wednesday, because they have fewer hours, it might be more like 20 to 30 minutes so that they can accommodate that. But I do know that our principals have been working with their staffs to balance that. So they might have every other, at a secondary level, they might have every other period meet on Wednesday and rotate that so that we can make sure that we have a good balance of time and that students know what to expect. So you can expect in Canvas from all of your teachers weekly a schedule for what to expect each week. And I anticipate after these first few weeks and we settle into a more routine that you won't see much variation in that synchronous or live teaching will happen at the same time each day, and that the asynchronous will also. This first week, it's a lot of get to know you, see how people have been since we haven't seen you in several months, and establish some classroom routines. And then we'll see in the next few weeks that ramping up of that more regular schedule. And I think it will settle down to be something that's more familiar in the next few weeks.
Thank you for that detail, because the question was like today it kind of just felt like housekeeping. And that might be true today. And again, let's think about an in-person environment when your kids return to school that very first week. There's some glitches along the way. Got to make sure that we're getting all the information out that we need to. There's a lot of filling out papers and a lot of learning style inventories and interest inventories, and so that is true in a remote environment as well. So you can look forward to more of a structure on those Wednesdays as we get into our cadence. Let's talk about Kinder U. I'll take this one. Will Kinder U students get a device? So Kinder U is our preschool program. We also have we have Kinder U as part of our preschool program. And we are taking an inventory right now. This is going to be a little bit of a long answer, but I want to give a little bit of a shout out and an appreciation to the city of Mesa. So the city of Mesa, with their CARES Act funds, they contributed $6.5 million to Mesa Public Schools to purchase 9,000 laptops to make sure that our kindergarten through sixth grade students had adequate devices the way that our secondary students do. So as you can imagine, that the demand for laptops is very high in this environment. So there's a back order that is happening. So what we are doing is we're waiting for those devices to come in, and we have scrambled, and I'm not kidding when I say that our technology department, they have opened up cupboards, they have looked in desks, they have found every last device that they can to get into the hands of our students who need them. So as soon as we get through all of that and figure out exactly how many devices we have left, then we will be able to talk about preschool devices. So they are very much on our radar. We know that they're going to need access. But for right now, we are just waiting. We don't want to over promise and under deliver. So we're just going to say right now, we are counting, and we want to make this a priority. We have about 1,100 preschool students that we would like to make sure to have devices. But that is on the priority list. We're just not there yet. So thank you for asking that question. Okay, here's a good one. Oh boy, here we go. So what should I do if my children have no work assigned in their Canvas classes? That's the first part of the question. And the second is, my kids were done by 9:39 today.
So that would be a little early this morning, but it is,
Yes.
it is a Wednesday, so there was an early release. So it wouldn't surprise me that there's not academic content to have work this week, because just as Dr. Forler said a few minutes ago, in the in-person, this week is about getting to know you, getting to know your classmates, getting to know the people in your room, the procedures, how things are going to work. So the teacher may be leading students through how to access Canvas. What are the different features? The activities around how to get into things and how to do things, some interest inventories, some get to know you activities so the teacher can know the students better. So if you don't see math and English and reading assignments this week, I wouldn't worry too much, because that's what's coming. It's not that they're not wanting to do them. It's about reconnecting as a classroom, and in this remote environment, sometimes that takes a little longer, because when you're all in the room together, you can do those things a little faster. But this week, it's about taking our time to getting to know them. So I would encourage you to reach out to student's teacher about the 9:30 stuff. That is a little early, but I would say that you can expect that to ramp up significantly in the next couple of weeks.
You know, I think about as adults working in this virtual environment, I'm very much a people person. I'd much rather be sitting in Mrs. Williams' office with her and saying, okay, let's brainstorm a solution to a big problem. But instead, we're working in these different environments. And we've been in very large meetings, and just us learning how to raise our virtual hand took us a bit of time. So many of our teachers are teaching those types of tools to our children right now. So let's move on to, oh, here's a really great question. And I know you know the answer to this one, Holly. When will the district move to modified in person out of this remote environment? When is that going to happen?
I tell you, that's our goal. Everybody wants that, and so we are developing a plan that we've said all along would be around safety. We don't have a date. I can't tell you today it's going to be this date. What I can tell you is this week we anticipate the metrics coming to us from Maricopa County and the Arizona Department of Health that will tell us what numbers we should be watching so that we know when it will be. So when we hit that threshold in our community, and our hope is that we're going to be able to use Mesa data to make Mesa decisions, and we will use the safety data provided by the state. When Mesa hits the metrics, we will say, okay, we will now transition into the modified in-person. Our goal is to do that as soon as possible. So we need everybody's help in following the safety guidelines set forth by the state so that we can get our community spread down to a level where it's safe to bring back our students and our staff. It's crucial to us that we provide a safe learning environment for everybody who comes into that building. And we don't know a date today, but we do know that we're going to get metrics this week that will help us make that decision and get one step closer to being able to tell our community when we reach this milestone, we will be able to come back into a modified in-person.
Thank you very much. And as we're talking about these different stages, you know, we do have a plan of beginning remote. And as Mrs. Williams said, our goal is to get to in person learning as quickly as it is safe to do so. We know that in person teaching is it's probably the most powerful for most of our students. And so that is absolutely our goal. So we have a question here that says, if we choose to stay remote, will my child keep the same teachers?
So maybe that's my best answer. What we plan to do when we transition from remote to in-person is those students and staff members who would like to stay in the remote setting, we're going to try and match them up the best as possible. Knowing that most families have indicated that they would like to transition into the modified in-person, it might be difficult for us to promise that you can keep the same teacher because we are not going to ask teachers to teach in two different scenarios. So if they're teaching in the modified in-person, that will be what their focus is. If they're teaching in remote, that will be their focus. We won't be asking them to teach modified in-person and remote. We think that that is not a strong way for them to be able to give great instruction to the students that they're working with. So there's a chance that you would keep your teacher. There is probably a better chance that you would be transitioned to another highly qualified, highly skilled teacher for whatever grade level or subject matter that your student is involved in remotely.
Thank you. So, sticking with this idea of remote learning. So, I'm so glad that you're here today because I appreciate your expertise. For those of you watching, many of you, I would like for you to know that Mrs. Williams led our special ed department for some time in our district. And so, here we go. Here's going to be an IEP question. What if remote learning isn't accessible for my child who has an IEP?
So I would encourage you to reach out to your student's case manager and talk about how could those accommodations be made. What can we do to meet those needs? We don't have a perfect answer to that because it's not because individualized education plans mean that we have to plan it for that student. So for me to answer for everybody, I can't do. But what I can encourage you to do is to reach out to your student's case manager and say, my student has an IEP that says these needs need to be met. How are we going to work together to make sure that happens? And I know that those teachers are working tirelessly to figure that out and to provide that. We are also looking at, when we talk about the opportunities for in-person instruction, as soon as safely possible. Obviously, our special ed students are a priority in that to make sure that that phasing goes well and that they begin to receive their services. So know that we are having conversations around that. Once we have the metrics, we'll be able to better answer those questions. But I encourage you to reach out to your student's case manager to work out the details about how they can access the accommodations spelled out in their IEP.
And that question, I know that is a question that we receive time and time again because we do know that that is absolutely a struggle for many of our students. And we spend a lot of time trying to solve that problem. That is a nationwide problem, and we are getting as many thinkers around the table to be able to say, how do we do this? So please know that we are becoming great students of trying to solve that very complex problem. So let's talk about why is it okay for Explore, which is our tuition-based childcare program, why is it okay for them to open but not for schools? And I'll take that one. We are working right now under two different executive orders issued by our governor. Unusual times create unusual governance and rule following for school districts. And so right now, again, two different executive orders issued by our governor. An early executive order says that school districts can provide childcare for their families who need it. So we opened school on August 4th. That means that we are able to offer childcare. Childcare then is something that is tuition based. So we're able to offer that under that executive order. Please know that that's a voluntary program. It is groups of 10 or less with highly, highly sophisticated security protocols in place. So that's the Explore model. We cannot open up our schools to a typical school environment because we cannot adhere to groups of no more than 10. So it's very different. And also having kids coming into our schools, that is not voluntary. School is something that kids need to do. So those are two of the biggest differences between in-person school and Explore. So I'm going to turn this one over to you, Mrs. Williams. Why are only football and track allowed to practice?
Actually, all of our fall sports have been allowed to practice starting 2 weeks ago because they are preparing for their fall seasons. The AIA has laid out a timeline for when competitions would start. And so allowing those sports to begin has been on a voluntary basis this summer, and the coaches have set up those schedules. Today, we had a meeting that discussed what about the other sports, the winter and spring sports. And the decision was made for very strict safety protocols, very small groups. But if they want to do workouts for other teams, that can move forward now also. So we are every day as we review what the requests are coming in, we meet and we talk about how can we do this safely, what can we do safely, but knowing that the AIA is driving some of our decisions with their calendar and their competition schedules have encouraged us to find ways for, like Dr. Forler said with Explore, to do small groups and working with students so that they are ready, because we know that if they're not practicing and conditioning, the competition actually becomes dangerous because of injuries, and they're not being well prepared for those competitions. So it's important to us. So it's not just football and track. We have been open for fall sports, and we are opening for the other sports on a voluntary basis with small groups moving forward.
Thank you. And I think it's really important to understand voluntary, that this is only if that a family and a student athlete feels comfortable to be able to do this. So again, it is all voluntary small groups with safety protocols. So here's another question related to special education. Could special education start sooner than others?
Possibly. So yes, because if we, so I'm going to answer it a couple ways. We need to see what the safety metrics are going to be to see if we're allowed to open for any students in that instruction situation. As Dr. Fuller said, it would not be voluntary. It would be direct instruction, and that's where they would need to be. And could we enforce those groups of 10 or fewer students? Could we make it a very safe environment for them? So the answer to the question is yes. but we have some other questions to ask ourselves first. So know that that is an ongoing conversation. It's a priority for us to make sure that our special needs students have their needs met. And if in-person instruction is the best way to do that, then we need to find a safe way using the metrics that we have and the safety protocols that we have to phase that in.
And we're looking at that number of 10 as if we can bring back students in groups of 10 or less. And many of our special education programs, the class size is less than 10 students. And so that's another piece of data that we're paying attention to. So I'm looking at our time. It's 4:25. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes to wrap up. Are there any other questions or information, Mrs. Williams, that you would like for our families to know as they navigate this new world of remote learning?
You know, just as we've been talking about with our principals and our teachers, excuse me, and our leadership teams, we ask for patience and flexibility and grace as we move through these times that are new for all of us. And we hope that you're granting yourself that too, that if your day didn't go perfectly with getting all of your students onto Canvas, to know that the teachers know that this is difficult for all of us and that they will work with you. A quick email to say, hey, this was a rough day for us in our house. Can we watch the recording and catch up on the assignment? I know that our teachers are understanding of those circumstances because they're dealing with Wi-Fi issues in their neighborhoods and in their classrooms, just as all of you are. So I encourage you, when you think about granting grace, to give yourself grace too, because it's not easy. We get it. We get that we are going to have hiccups in the system. My Wi-Fi in my house today was challenged a couple of times, and I could hear a meeting, but I couldn't talk, and you couldn't see me. So it's going to happen. It's not going to be perfect, but we're doing our very best to make this a very good experience for our students. So much planning has gone in with our teachers, doing remarkable things to prepare engaging and exciting lessons for their students. I saw some of the campus lessons yesterday, and the get to know you activities that teachers were doing, and the get familiar with your classroom, and the videos that they've prepared. And it's not the same first day of school, but it was just as exciting because it was a new time of learning and a new way. And I saw something on Facebook that I'll share with you that I enjoyed the other day. I miss precedented times. We say so often, this is unprecedented. I miss the precedented times. I do, for sure. But I do know that the people who are doing the work are doing remarkable work, and they are working tirelessly to make sure that there are good experiences for your students. So celebrate the good things that are happening. Continue to ask us questions about the challenges. That's the only way we get better. So I appreciate you who are watching today and the questions you've sent us, because I think it just helps us refine the work that we do each day.
Yes, thank you so very much. And I just want to add that our appreciation to you as families who are supporting us along the way as we are defining what remote learning looks like in Mesa Public Schools. And also, this is temporary. We are going to get through this. This is not going to be the way that we do learning for the rest of our lives. So this is temporary. We are going to open up our doors, and we are going to have kids in our schools as quickly as it is safe for us to do so. So I want to just say thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. And if you have found this to be valuable, we have recorded all of our Facebook Live sessions on our Safe, Strong, Ready website. And so with that, Ina, if you would like to put up that last screen that will show all of the different places you can go to navigate if you're interested in that plan about opening up schools, if you want to see more details, enrollment, technical support, parent resources, parent university. We have a ton of classes online for parents who would like to take some of them and thinking about what the needs are within your home. And then if you're an employee, we have an employee resource page as well. So I would like to say thank you for joining us in our Safe, Strong, Ready Facebook Live event today. And we appreciate you very, very much. Have a wonderful evening with your families. Thank you.
Thank you.